Hi, and welcome to Civatree Talks. This is episode number 1 in a 3-part series with VMware, hosted by Civatree's President Richard Lichtenstein. Enjoy episode 1, SAP HANA, and new SAP on VMware certifications.
Today, I have the pleasure to introduce one of the leading experts in modernizing SAP, and my dear friend Dominic Uliano, who is the Global Alliance Director of SAP at VMware. Dom, great to talk to you.
Thanks, Richard. Great to talk to you as well. How you doing?
Yeah, it's always good to catch up. Dom, today I'd like to talk about what's going on in the current status and certifications around SAP, SAP HANA, S/4HANA. You know, the great thing about VMware is every year they introduce all these different product sets to help customers, not just SAP, but overall, to help them to modernize and to find better savings. And as you and I talk all the time, also around integrating with SAP, which some people would consider an older type of application. But again, they are also moving their products to a much different level. So today I'd like to talk a little bit about that. And the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is maybe give us a little bit of an update on the SAP HANA journey. Where are we? Where are you at VMware today? What are your thoughts about about how VMware is keeping pace with SAP as they build out the technology?
Yeah, it's a great question, Richard, and it's something that's first and foremost on our minds with pretty much everything we do, right? For VMware, it's really all about HANA. You know, back in 2015, when I moved over from SAP to VMware, we're working with you together. We started on this HANA journey by getting, 1 terabyte HANA certified, right? It was a big deal for us. We were really excited because it was something that was brand new for VMware, being able to run virtual HANA on our vSphere. I think it was 5.5, or I think it was back in the day. And, we've elevated and escalated our capabilities almost every year since. So shortly after that, 2016 went to 4 terabyte, then on to 6 terabyte last year, and we're now moving into the very large space with our 7.0 update 1 around 12 terabytes and then beyond. So our customers want larger and larger HANA systems because more and more are migrating over. So naturally, it's not just keeping up with SAP, but SAP's customers' demands, as well as with the hyperscalers. Hyperscalers are offering larger capabilities as well. So.
Yeah, and SAP themselves changing from, say, HANA version 1 to HANA version 2 as they update their technical capabilities, because it's amazing. I remember in the old days, Dom, you and I, when it was just virtualized on 1 terabyte, how people started coming in and doing that. So VMware, like SAP, have a lot of customers already who have already gone through an iteration of putting SAP HANA on VMware. And now you guys are literally trying to help them move to your latest technology.
Yeah, so the part of that move is kind of a cloud building block model, right? So moving into hyper-converged, helping customers move into the hybrid cloud. These are topics that our customers are driving very aggressively towards. A lot of them want to take advantage of these newer capabilities. So you're right, it's not just virtualizing HANA anymore. It's virtualizing HANA for HCI. It's virtualizing HANA on the cloud. And those are things that VMware's working, very aggressively on these days.
Yeah, and customers, you're talking about 12 terabytes and building out from there. You're now talking about a great majority of SAP customers now. I mean, that are using HANA. I mean, because of course on the HANA side, it's a big reduction from the original database, and and with dynamic tiering and all that, it really becomes a solution just about for almost every SAP customer.
Yeah, agreed. The memory piece, I thought the memory and the cost of HANA would be a prohibitor, right? But it's not. Customers have these ultra large, RDBMS databases today, 50, 60 terabytes. They convert down to 12 to 15 terabyte size HANA. Customers, see the compelling business case to go to HANA and they want to virtualize it. So that's what's driving VMware's ultra large, or monster VM as we call it here at VMware, strategy. So
that's the same as the monster bugs or hornets?
No, it's not those monster hornets. More like monster VM where we can deal with a lot of those hornets.
Yeah. Maybe we could talk a few seconds about PMAP and how that's affecting. We're seeing a lot of customers now wanting to load that up, and I know you've been working with Intel for quite a long time on that. So maybe give us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, Intel's another great partner of ours with around the technology. Intel spent a lot of R&D effort around persistent memory. Persistent memory, really, in a very easy way to consume it, it's memory that behaves like storage from HANA's perspective. So when HANA goes down, inadvertently has to restart, its memory, if you will, is pre-populated. And so that enables HANA to speed up. Intel also invested heavily to make sure PMAP was lower cost than traditional DDR4 or DRAM. So those two things combined are a very compelling use case for HANA because we're always looking to reduce TCO, as we know you are. And so TCO plus capability really is what the benefit for the customer. So we spent a year certifying PMAP for the hypervisor, and we're done.
So a lot of our customers say, should I do scale up or scale out with virtualization? What is better? When do you do what? Maybe you can give us a couple thoughts about how people should be lining those up when they're looking at their solutions.
Yeah, so we've got, we support both modes. So we can support scale up, which is a simple, monolithic VM, as large in memory as possible, largest compute, or we can spread HANA out across multiple hosts in a scale out mode. Traditionally, BW has been focused around scale out, and that's because the size of the database required it, right? So BW typically gets spread across many hosts, and this is SAP's analytics engine. But now S/4HANA supports scale out as well. So for these customers that have HANA databases that are so big, they can't fit on a single frame, single server, if you will, the scale out option now exists for both S4 and for BW. So VMware is working to support both. That's our strategy.
That's fantastic. And there's so many scale. How many? 18 1 terabyte scale out nodes you can have now?
So we actually we've changed a little bit. We can actually, depends on the class of the chip, but we can either support 8 3 terabyte nodes or 16 2 terabyte nodes.
Whoa,
today.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, tell us a little more, and a lot of our audience probably understands this, but a little bit of the difference between virtualizing HANA compared to virtualizing S/4HANA, and why is SAP putting it together? What were the reasons why you feel they came out with S/4HANA instead of just leaving the database alone and loading up new software?
Yeah, so that's the whole part of the transition of moving off traditional RDBMS, right? They were an open platform before, supported third-party databases. Functionality was at the application tier, and database was at the database tier. Well, with S/4HANA, because it's part of the same stack, a lot of SAP's functionality is no longer just at the application layer, but it's been deeply integrated into the database. So they don't need to have that separation of application versus database function. It's all actually built into one. Now, this actually introduces some challenges for us because we need to be able to support S/4HANA both as an application stack and as a database stack simultaneously. So it is a little bit of a challenge for us. SAP has a set of KPIs that we have to hit. So we actually do 3 different types of tests, and those tests give SAP a good overview of how well our system will perform. And we must meet certain KPIs. So one big KPI I think everybody knows is we always have to be within 10% of bare metal. If we're beyond 10% of bare metal, we fail the test. It's back to the drawing board for VMware. So,
yeah, that's interesting you say that because a lot of customers say, "Is this certified with SAP? Is this certified?" And I know how intense from Waldorf on down you guys work. Maybe speak a little bit about the type of effort it is just to do that, and why some people get frustrated. Why isn't this certified already? And it's not because VMware's lazy. It's because of the hoops they have to jump.
It's hoops. SAP makes no apologies for quality control, and neither does VMware. So we've subscribed to SAP's requirements, and keep in mind that when we do these tests require a lot of setup, a lot of hardware. It requires very skilled people to do this work, and these tests are not just these little light tests that you have to run once or twice, but these are tests that require hours and hours of setup, weeks and weeks of testing and retesting. And then if your results aren't optimal, you have to retest again. Then they have to go through a strict review process with SAP. And then if all those stars align, we get the certification. And so it's not an easy thing to do. It could take us months.
It's like going to medical school, my God.
Yeah.
And we know you're very surgical, buddy. So a little sneak peek of where you see the next couple of years with VMware around HANA and the types of sizing or memory, or where do you see the next grouping coming over the next couple of years?
Yeah, so that's really something we started to work on last year with SAP and with our hardware partners. It's all about bigger is better and PMAP. So, for example, we're talking about 12 terabytes now. We're looking at an 18 terabyte scale up. So that's with a combination of PMAP and DRAM. And then we're also looking at a 48 terabyte S/4HANA scale out.
Whoa.
And then, of course, with the hypervisor supporting 16 sockets now, or 768 vCPUs, we're actually looking at 16 socket VMs now. So bigger is better. And
I guess the challenge is the hardware vendors keeping up with their systems to be able to handle those kind of sizings on the sockets and things.
Yeah, actually, there's a race condition there too. So the hardware vendors, the fewer and fewer support larger and larger frames, right? So you've got the HPEs, the Fujitsus, the Lenovo's, but then you've got some of our partners that have kind of capped off at 4 sockets, like Dell. So there's a challenge there, but they'll have their sweet spots. What's the bigger problem for VMware is getting that hardware in a timely fashion so that we don't disrupt the market. So, for example, hardware vendors have their own certification. We then have to certify our platform on top of a pre-certified hardware platform. So we are already at a disadvantage compared to the bare metal hardware vendors because they're already done. Then we have to go do ours. Well, at the same time, the customers are clamoring for virtual HANA. They all want to virtualize HANA. So there's always this race condition for us. And of course, we always have the next greatest generation, right? So we've got Intel, who has now accelerated their CPU innovation cycle. They're around 12 months to 18 months versus 2 to 3 years like they used to be. So VMware's always stuck in limbo of trying to get done what it needs to get done and stay current with the market. It's a real challenge.
Yeah, and dragging people along. So the last thing I want to talk about is, everything we talked today so far is so interesting, and I know a lot of people want to know your advice as you just talked about. But when we talk to customers, we try to say this technology is really built to give you business outcomes, right? Because businesses don't think about PMAP and memory. They think about how much revenue they can do and how do I cut costs, especially in times like this. And so we believe that, like any good building, you build a design of the building. So you build a design around the technology. Give me your little bit of thoughts, because I know, in your past 20 years with SAP, you were involved a lot of that part, and you were helped originally build that design through the SAP side. Give us a little bit more about what you think about that.
Well, it's partners like Civatree that actually put the verb on the noun, if you will. And that is that, yes, we have certified HANA, validated HANA, whatever, but it's partners like Civatree that enable our customers to operate, run, implement, design effectively so that they get the best use of this combined solution from SAP and VMware. So, yeah, VMware spends a lot of time doing the technology, spends a lot of time doing the cert, but if the customer doesn't have a proper design, then it's most likely going to fail, right? If the customer doesn't have proper design, it may not be optimal TCO. right? It may not enable the agility of the business effectively through, say, automation. This is where partners like Civatree are critical to VMware and SAP, because it enables our customers to use this solution effectively. And to me, that's the three legs of the stool, if you will. You've got SAP with the applications, VMware with the infrastructure, and Civatree with the ability to put it all together and help the customer run it, design it, implement it, and run it effectively.
Yeah, that's great. Dom, we really appreciate your time today. It is always a pleasure catching up with you, and I wish you a great day.
Thanks, you too. Thanks for having me, Richard.
You're welcome, Dom.
Thanks for watching Civatree Talks, and we hope you'll join us for future episodes as we continue to talk SAP and more with industry experts. Please be sure to subscribe to Civatree Technologies YouTube channel and click the bell for notifications. We welcome suggestions for future episodes in the comments. Also, please check out our website, www.civatree.com, find us on LinkedIn, and follow @CivatreeT on Twitter.